guys, and welcome to another one of my coffee chats. In these videos, we go through new makeup releases and talk about what's been either released or will be coming soon, give you my thoughts and opinions on them. In these videos, I try and track down as many swatches and close-ups and information on these products as I can, so I can share them with you here on the screen. So hopefully you can get a sense for whether or not these are products you would be interested in. I do leverage several different Instagram accounts in order to gather up this information. Trend Mood is on one I know a lot of people follow, but I also look at Makeup World News and Makeup Snitch and a few others out there. So I will always link their information down below if you would like to follow some channels who kind of keep up with the trends and what's coming out in the makeup world. So I skipped a week. I did 2 weeks in a row, and then last week I really pulled up my list of products and I was kind of uninspired to do this video because there was just only a handful of things that I was really interested in. So I waited a week, and I feel like at this point I've got some good products I want to share with you guys. So let's go ahead and get into it, coffee and all. All right, so first things out of the gate were some new palettes coming out from Sephora. So these are going to launch sometime in September from what I've been able to gather. These are a continuation, or rather an expansion, of their Pro Pigment palettes. There are going to be 3 new colors. These retail for $68, so they are not cheap. There are 28 colors in each of these palettes, so these are definitely larger palettes. I feel like when they launched the first collection of palettes last year, I think there was a warm, a cool, and then an editorial that was a lot of bright colors. I felt like a lot of people liked the editorial one if you were into bright colors. I feel like the warm one got mixed reviews, and I feel like the cool one got mixed reviews. I swatched these in store, and I actually gravitated towards the cool one quite a bit, but I held off. That $68 price point kind of held me back, to be totally honest. And then also I started reading mixed reviews about them, and I felt like I was also buying a lot of eyeshadow palettes when these launched, so I skipped over them. So let's talk about the 3 new palettes that are coming out and kind of go through them, because at this point we have swatches for all of them. Up first, this is the new Nudes palette. You can see there is a lot of what I would consider to be basic shades. You've got champagnes, you've got golds, you've got neutrals, and then you've also got a lot of warm tone neutrals as well. It seems to be a good mix of matte and shimmers, so I feel like that is going to satisfy a lot of people. You've also got some pops of pink and a couple pops of like more lavender and maybe more of an icy pink down there. I look at this palette, I see vibes of Huda Beauty Rose Gold palette, which has not only been out for a while, but it's been duped multiple times over. I looked at this palette and I thought, I have all of these colors many times over in my collection. This one just didn't really call to me at all. The next color palette that they are launching is Smoky Jewels. So this one is definitely deeper and murkier. It's got greens, it's got blues, it's got kind of some pinky coral shades in there. I feel like it's an interesting looking palette, but it really reminds me of the Urban Decay, was it the Born to Run palette that just launched? In fact, I look at this and I think, gosh, if you own the Born to Run palette, are you even going to want to look at this one? Because I feel like it's got a lot of those similar jewel tone colors. I do think this palette is interesting in the sense that it is giving you sort of deeper, darker, colorful shades. So I think that's really cool. But I also look at this and I think, these are just not colors that I'm going to reach for a ton. I feel like I have a lot of these in my collection, so this is another one that I think I'll be able to pass over and not be super bummed about. The third palette is the Editorial 2 palette. This palette totally caught my eye. So on the arm swatch on the left, you can see you've got plums and some corals and a really bright looking neon red that's really interesting looking. You've got your classic shades that you may want to use to mix in with some of these brighter colors, like some lighter champagne golds and some taupey browns, and it looks like it'd be a really interesting duochrome blue-green down there, as well as some mauve shades that look stunning. And then flip over and you've got some really cool greens. So you've got sort of an army green in there, and you've got a bright yellow, and you've got some teals and some purples. Like, I don't know, I look at this palette and it's colorful, but not overwhelmingly colorful. So what I mean by that is I feel like I've got lots of color in here, but I also feel like I have ways to ground that color with mattes and with other more neutral shades that I personally prefer to have when I'm going to wear color. I'm not opposed to color on my lids, but I'm definitely one of those people who is gonna look for some neutrals to kind of ground that color so that I'm not just wearing one bold, bright colorway on my eyes. That's how I personally prefer color. even I think if you didn't prefer color that way, I feel like there's things in here that would really potentially strike your fancy if you're into color. I'm really hoping this is not a dud palette. I'm really hoping these swatch as nicely as they appear to here on the screen. I really have my fingers crossed because I think this is a really cool, unique palette, and I'm pretty excited for it. So what do you guys think about this? Did you try any of the first three? I can't give any context for how this worked because I personally didn't try them, so I'm curious, did you try them? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Are you interested in these? Does that $68 price point just scare the absolute crap out of you? I'm curious, what do you guys think? From $68, we're going to switch to something that is hopefully going to be very affordable. And I say hopefully because I don't have an actual price on it, but this is going to be a new release from CYO Cosmetics. They are launching something called Pigment paints. They're going to be exclusive to Walgreens in the US. If you live in the UK and or have a Boots London around you, I believe these have already launched for you. I don't have an exact date for when they're going to be launching here in the United States, but I'm excited to see CYO coming out with some new products because we had that first big launch here into the US of what I think were just their core staple items. I tried a ton of those products and did a whole brand review for CYO. I will link that down below if you kind of want to see my roundup of what was awesome, what was just okay, and then what were the total duds I tried. But these pigment paints kind of caught my eye. The terminology made to mix also really got me thinking. They're clearly intending for you to put a couple of colors on the back of your hand and mix them together to get unique shades. And I don't know why that thought never occurred to me. When it comes to liquid shadows, it would be so easy to take a couple of liquid shadows and mix them on the back of your hand and get a really cool, unique color. It makes me want to go back through my collection and see what mixing and matching that I could do with my liquid shadows to make something really, really cool. So with that in mind, I am interested in trying a few of these. I'm not sure if the colors that we've seen are all we're going to get or if there's going to be additional colorways, but I'm definitely interested in giving these a whirl. Next up, a couple products from Urban Decay. So this is the Urban Decay Aphrodisiac palette. It retailed for $29. They're also releasing 3 new lip glosses. I'll show those here in just a second. But this is a little sort of 6-pan palette. I think the color is really pretty. I did find some swatches of it. It looks like it's very pigmented. It looks very pretty, but I also feel like I have all of these colors and I'm trying to decide if it's ever gonna be worth me having a mini palette with these colors in them. My gut reaction is no. Although I do like mini palettes and I do feel like this one has a nice mix of matte and shimmer shades, I'm trying to decide if this is a palette that would warrant me buying it, because if I bought it, it would be specifically for travel purposes. It would be with the idea of, I like these colors enough to want to have a sort of travel with me style palette. I think it's really pretty, but my gut tells me that I don't need those colors as a travel palette. And I have those colors in different palettes already in my collection. The 3 lip glosses you can see there, you've got 2 purpley tones and then sort of looks like a blue-brown sort of shade. You know, I do like their lip gloss scent. It's got a nice minty scent to it, but it's just a little stickier and tackier than I like. I had gotten a sample of their lip gloss formula when it first launched. I think it was a 100-point perk or maybe in a Sephora play bag, one of the two. And although I love the scent of it a ton, I really didn't care for how thick and sticky it felt. It is by no means the stickiest gloss out there. In fact, it reminds me a lot of the Buxom glosses, but I've just decided that if I'm gonna wear a gloss, I really want something to be gel-like and have a nice slip to it and none of that sticky feeling. So I will definitely be skipping the Urban Decay glosses in probably any color that they launch. Now for this giant collection from Too Faced. So Too Faced is gone a little crazy with more scented product. I feel like Too Faced launches a handful of normal products like concealers and or powders, and then they just blast us with these crazy fruity limited edition products. So we've done the chocolate, we've done the peach, now we're doing Tutti Frutti. This is the Tutti Frutti collection. There is a plethora of products at this point. I think it might be an Ulta exclusive. I'm not entirely sure. I've seen anyone committing to it being in Sephora as well. So let's kind of go through each one of them and I'll give you my thoughts on them. So up first, there's actually 2 eyeshadow palettes. We don't know the exact name of them. There's a raspberry on the front of this one, so I'm guessing this is going to be the raspberry palette. in some way, shape, or form. There's 7 colors in these eyeshadow palettes. It seems to be a mix of matte and shimmers. This one is definitely more berry purple tones. These are definitely colors that I love quite a bit. But for some reason, that $34 price tag is really throwing me for a loop. I know we just talked about a mini Urban Decay eyeshadow palette that was $29 and it had 6 colors in it. I feel like they've added 1 color and I've taken the price up to $34. And for some reason, that $34 price tag it makes me feel like it's too expensive. Maybe it's just the hang up on where I'm at currently right now, but for some reason I was looking at this and when I first saw the pictures, I'm like, oh good, there's another little eyeshadow palette that's gonna be under $30. I do think the mattes look pretty. You've got a cream, you've got a transition, you've got a berry shade. You seem to have a sparkly black, a sparkly purple, and then 2 potentially metallic sort of cranberry and pink shades. It's a pretty palette. I'm really gonna have to see the formula and feel it to decide if it's something that really warrants my attention and time. I don't know. It's pretty, but it's not like really catching my attention. Other palette was green tones, and I really thought this looked cool. So this has a pineapple theme to it, and I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. We're not seeing a lot of green palettes. I know a lot of us in the beauty community have talked about wanting to have a palette with a pop of green. If you take that green out, let's be clear, this is the world's most boring neutral palette. That green is really what is driving this forward. The other thing that's making me a little nervous about this palette, and I feel like I'm gonna have to see it in person as well, is that I saw a second picture launch and it doesn't even look like the same palette. So this one looks a lot more cool toned, and that green that looked really limey and vivid in one palette all of a sudden looks more like a, I don't know, forest green shade. To be honest, for $34, I'm probably gonna pass on both of these, but knowing Too Faced, these palettes are also going to have a really strong scent to them. Their scents have been hit or miss for me. I like the chocolate bar palette. I hated the first peach palette. I couldn't get past that chemically peach scent. I never bought it. I thought the colors were pretty, but I couldn't get past that scent. They released a peach and sweet fig collection when they did sort of an expanded peach collection, and so I really did enjoy the peach scent in the Just Peachy Mattes palette. I thought that was a really nice peach scent. So for me, I'm really gonna have to smell this first. Tutti Frutti in my head is gonna smell like fruit punch, which is not my favorite scent of life. So maybe I'm gonna be pleasantly surprised and the scent of this will be lovely. My gut tells me that most of these powder products are going to be heavily scented. It's gonna feel very fake and chemically, and I'm just not gonna like it. Moving on, one product that is interesting to me, assuming there isn't a god-awful scent associated with it, is their new foundation. So this is their Do You Fresh Glow Foundation, but it also says full coverage. So I'm interested in that. You don't see a lot of glowy foundations that are full coverage. Most full coverage foundations tend to be matte, and oftentimes incredibly matte. So although I am not a full coverage girl most of the time, there are times where I really want a perfected look or my skin's looking crazy and a full coverage foundation sounds amazing to me. But at the same time, I don't want a super matte foundation either. So I'm interested in that. It is launching with 20 shades. They are shades that I've seen them put out in many other formats. I recognize the shades Swan and Snow and Almond and Mahogany and Maple. Like, these seem to be similar shade names to their other launches. So the only other thing that gives me a bit of pause with this foundation is I find most of the bare shades are incredibly yellow, and I look very jaundiced once I put them on. Like, they have extreme yellow undertones. So I personally haven't been able to make a lot of Too Faced foundations work because their undertones are always weird. So I'm interested in this, but two things are gonna have to happen. One, the smell is gonna have to be something that I can handle, and two, the lightest shade Snow, which is probably what I would get, is gonna have to be slightly less yellowy than a lot of the other foundations I've tried from them. If both of those things are true, I might consider picking this guy up. The other thing that they're launching kind of in this face product collection is their Do You Fresh Glow Setting Spray. I should mention that these Do You products are going to be watermelon cucumber scented as opposed to Tutti Frutti collection scented. So my gut tells me that the scents of these two products are going to be far different than those eyeshadow palettes and even some of the other things we're going to talk about here in a minute. So part of me is really interested in this scent because I like both watermelon and cucumber. It could be nice and fresh scented, or it could be really heavy and stinky. So as far as it relates to the actual setting spray though, this is going to be a pass for me. I have plenty of dewy setting sprays at this point that are going to sort of cause my foundations and powders to gel together and give my face a little bit of glow. I can find a ton of those at the drugstore that I really enjoy, so I personally will probably not pay $30 for a setting spray. Next up, some powder face products. So there's 4 blush duos for $30. There is a bronzer. It's an illuminating one that's called Pineapple Paradise, also $30. That's down in the bottom corner. And then there's something called a banana powder for $30. It is kind of cute. You actually have what appears to be little banana candies almost, like raised up out of the powder palette. Don't get me wrong, Too Faced gets major points for cuteness. They always do with me. That cuteness doesn't always translate into something I personally want to buy and put on my face, but I always do look at their stuff and go, all right, well, it's cute, right? So as far as the blushes go, they appear to be incredibly like glowy. Like I look at those and think that they look like eyeshadow duos, not face duos. So the pink shade in the top corner, the strawberry one, is probably about the only one that really interests me. I think the other ones are going to be too gold or too dark on me, so that is one I may look at in store. I'll be curious to see if all of these are scented differently or if they're all scented the same, given the fact that we see different fruits on the front of them. The bronzer looks very glowy, but it also looks very golden. Not my favorite undertone. I love the Sweet Tea bronzer. I feel like that's going to give me everything I need from Too Faced from a glowy bronzer perspective, so that's a pass. And then as it relates to banana powders, I don't think they work well on me. I'm too fair. When I use a yellow powder underneath my eye, it looks like I've put yellow eyeshadow underneath my eyes. Banana powders just don't work for me. So I think they're something that if you are medium to deeper, banana powders can be very brightening. When you're as fair and as cool toned as me, they look really strange underneath my eyes. So that's the roundup of face products. Nothing in here is like screaming or calling my name. I mean, like I said, if I had to pick one thing on the page, it would be that strawberry blush, but even that, I kind of feel like I could take it or leave it at this point. Next, we come up to some highlighting products. So they're doing 2 highlighting drops for $30. We've got a sparkling pink grapefruit and a sparkling pina colada. You can't really tell from these pictures here what these look like or what the colors are going to be. I don't know if these are going to be duochromed ones. I don't know if these are going to be iridescent or sparkly or glittery. So I'm gonna need more information before I could make a decision on if I want to pick these up. $30 is pretty steep for one of these when you can pick up ones from Wet n Wild and Makeup Revolution that are gorgeous liquid highlighters. This highlighter is going to have to be something really remarkable for me to want to pick it up for $30. That being said, I do love the smell of pina coladas, so there is that. There's also 2 highlighting sticks coming out, a sort of lighter peachy pink and one that looks like it has a really interesting rose gold shift to it. At least from these 2 pictures, they also look very glittery to me, and I am not a fan of glittery highlighters, so we'll see what these look like swatched, but my gut is that these are going to have glitter in them just from the pictures there, and this would be a pass for me. And now we come to some lip products. So these are their Juicy Fruits glosses for $20. These appear to all be very incredibly shimmery. The packaging is very cutesy. It's got a full range of colors. For me, a lot of this is going to come down to, once again, what is that scent? Does it smell like a really nice, fresh, juicy scent, or is it something that's very fake and chemically smelling? At the end of the day, I also feel like I have a lot of lip glosses, so I don't feel like if I even tried none of these that I would really be missing much. And then they have a Twinkle Twinkle lip topper. These are $20 or $22 rather. There's 5 different shades here. These look all like they're going to have a ton of glitter in them. I'll be curious to see how smooth these are, or if you feel like you've got sort of gritty sandpaper on your lips. I don't know. I'm probably going to skip all of these. I'll look at them in store. If there's something that really appears to be unique or amazing, I may change my mind, but just from seeing the pictures now, it's just not something I'm super interested in. All right, so that is the whole Too Faced Tutti Frutti collection. It is a ton of different stuff. What do you guys think about this collection? Did this strike you as, oh gosh, there they go again with more scented products, or did you think this was some interesting releases? Were you interested in a lot of products, none of the products? I would love to know your thoughts down in the comments. From Tutti Frutti, we're going to switch to something that is a little bit more basic. So we're going to talk about some setting powders next. So first up is a Laura Mercier Translucent Loose Setting Powder Illumination version. These are going to retail for $38. There's 2 shades. They're actually out on Sephora now. So there's a translucent and a translucent deep, similar to what she had for her original loose setting powder. I personally never cared for her loose setting powder. I always found it to be too drying on my skin. I feel like people who are normal leaning oily or oily skinned have always really loved these powders. I personally feel like I can't wear her original powder underneath my eyes, or it looks like it's aged my eyes rather incredibly. So never loved this powder underneath my eyes, and on my face I just felt like it was too heavy and too drying. It made my foundation look makeup-y no matter how I used it. So I know this is a cult classic product that a ton of people love. For me, the original powder was just something that never worked for me. The illumination version is interesting. I went and compared the ingredients. There's a lot of similarities. This is a talc-based powder. They both have mica in them. So I'm curious to see, and I will probably need to see this in store, how different does it feel? How illuminating is it? Are we seeing lots of chunky glitter particles? I'm not saying no, but I feel like I try this, I'm probably going to try the travel size version because they did launch travel size versions as well. I think they are $22 if I remember correctly. But the powder I'm actually more interested in is the next one, and this is from Milk Makeup. This is their Blur Set Matte Loose Setting Powder. This actually came in 3 different shades, a light, medium, and a deep, so that's awesome. I really think that the powder itself looks pretty interesting. It looks like it has a little hinge to protect the powder, which is then underneath a mesh, so I feel like this is going to be a loose powder that doesn't get everywhere. This is also a talc-free powder, so I've talked about talc a little bit on my channel. I don't avoid talc because I think it's going to give me cancer. I don't believe that, but I do tend to avoid a lot of talc in my powders because they can be very drying. Talc is the most absorbative of the powders, so typically you're going to see a lot of mattifying products in even foundations that have a lot of talc in them. I have tried powders that have talc in them that have worked for me, but I think that's usually because they've been cut with a lot of other more slippy, smoothing, less mattifying powders as well. So this one is a talc-free formula, and I personally am really interested in giving this a whirl. These are also available at Sephora now, so I kind of want to go into my store once they have them both in inventory and try them both side by side on my hand and kind of get a sense for how these might work, but I think I might want to pick up one of these. And then last new product I wanted to talk about is from Natasha Denona. This is another mini palette. These retail for $29. This is the mini Camel palette. This is launching on August 10th at Sephora. I have to be honest, I bought the last mini palette that came out, the mini Lila palette or Lila, I'm not sure exactly which way you say it. I tried that one. I actually really did like that one. I did not like the first palette that was released, her Sunset palette. So X-nay on the first palette, have enjoyed the Lila palette. Don't feel like there's any reason of life for me to pick up this palette. So she's got 3 matte shades and 2 shimmer shades. In a very edited palette like this, I feel like you need to be incredibly selective about the colors you are putting in. And the fact that there are 2 matte brown mid-tone shades in here, to me just looks incredibly redundant. So either there's something wrong with the lighting and I'm just missing the undertone and the gradient. When I look at swatches, when I see things online, yes, the shade on the end is slightly deeper and darker than the one in the middle, but I just feel like they are duplicative shades. And I also feel like this might go down as the world's most boring palette. There you go, I said it. We have these shades 50 times over. I can't imagine that we don't at this point. In fact, I think we may even have mini palettes that look kind of like this. So I look at this and I think, nope, I don't need it. I get it, Natasha Denona, name brand. Maybe if you're brand new to makeup and you have absolutely 0 palettes, this might appeal to you. But even if you had absolutely zero palettes, I would steer you in a different direction in order to get a palette that is maybe a little bit more expensive, but is going to give you a much broader shade range. So this is just all kinds of pass for me. All right, guys, so that wraps it up for this week's Will I Buy It video. Definitely some interesting things coming to market. Also a lot of maybe gimmicky things. I'm totally curious to have a conversation with you down below on all of these launches and things that we've talked about today. I hope you guys are enjoying this series of videos. I didn't mention this at the beginning of the video, but I am gonna link down Samantha March's sort of open playlist that she has going for a lot of different collaborators. There's a lot of us who are doing a similar style video like this, talking about new makeup releases, what's interesting to us, what we're gonna pass on. So if you're interested in finding some new people and seeing who else is doing videos like this, make sure to check out that playlist and make sure to check out the one that Samantha March does every Wednesday. It's one of my favorite videos to watch, so give some other creators some love out there. There's some amazing content creators with smaller channels doing some great videos out there now. But that is all for today. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.